You know, this is one of those times where being right kind of sucks. Today we're going to talk about the death of the iiRcade. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And yes, some sad news to report from the home arcade community. We've lost a challenger to the Goliath that is Arcade 1UP. The iiRcade is officially dead. The company announced today on their YouTube channel that they have officially begun bankruptcy filings, and this is no surprise to anybody who's been following this company closely over the last several months. Recently, they announced that they were told to vacate the offices that they were leasing in Chicago, and that was just the latest red flag in a series of red flags that has kind of led up to this moment. So let's talk about the company right now. Let's talk about the owners of their products and what can you expect from this moment moving forward. So what has been announced on their live stream is that ending this Wednesday on the 21st of July, the sales are over, but not the ability to download and to purchase games. That was a statement that had been issued by someone on the panel, and then Jean quickly corrected that statement. You should be able to continue to download and purchase games as long as the servers are still running. We were also told during that live stream that the servers will not be shut down by iiRcade, but they could be shut down by whoever purchases what's left of the company. That would include the servers themselves. So as of right now, the best course of action is to go ahead and make sure you download every game that you've purchased via their website, and go ahead and purchase every game you want to, because once they're gone, they're gone. Now, companies come and companies go, but this is definitely a sad moment, I think, for a community that is so small as the home arcade community. And there was a real push from the founder, from the CEO, from the president of the company, Jean, to really connect with his audience, to continuously call his audience, his customers, family, to really stress this experience as being sort of a collaborative experience, relying on each other to buy his products and also give to the customers what they're asking for. And there was a real push, but there was a real connection with the guy that founded the company, and that's fairly rare. At least for a time. I think when a company is fairly small, like iiRcade was, you can maintain that, but as you grow beyond a certain point, that becomes a little bit more rare. But they were successful, as they remained a small company, to continue to connect with their customers, with their clients, with the people that bought their stuff. Now, I was introduced to iiRcade shortly thereafter the Kickstarters were receiving their products, so not in the very beginning, a little bit after. And I didn't get on board with the iiRcade until they announced their gold cabinet. Now, I made a video about this a while back, talking about the reasons why I did it. It was an $800 purchase, so it was not a cheap purchase. But when you consider what some of us are paying for some of these Arcade 1UPs at full retail, it wasn't that big of a stretch. The thing that pushed me over the edge, not to spoil that video that you can definitely go back and watch, but what pushed me over the edge, what pushed me to buy the product, was the changes that I saw them making physically with the hardware. Not just the fact that they added a cool marquee, which was cool. I mean, a lit marquee makes everything better. But the change that they were making inside the machine, they were definitely forward thinking. I could see that they were moving forward with something else. I even was of the opinion that we could see scented light guns coming in the future. Made that connection after some other announcements were made. And sure enough, they came out with the scented light guns, and they came out eventually with two guns. It took a while to get there, but they came out with two light gun games that were compatible with the scented light guns. And as of right now, looking at the software, the games, they are what they are, but it's a pretty fun experience. It's sad to see them end this abruptly. It really is, in my opinion. I think that the company was definitely moving forward with some things. Another thing that they revealed in that live stream is that they were basically going to allow you to access their games via your cell phone, so that that same store where you could go to on your cell phone, on your PC, and purchase games and then later download on your console, you would be able to have that same experience on your phone. The idea, I think, would be to bring in more customers. Obviously, they're going to buy their games on the iiRcade store, and then maybe eventually they would buy a cabinet to get the full experience. Looking at it now, thinking back on all the different ideas that I had and the different ideas that other content creators, other people in the space were sort of assuming that they were going, ways that they could go, seeing them say continuously that they were a software company, this was definitely an option out there. And as I give it more thought, I think it would have been a good idea. There's probably not a ton of cost involved in that to make it available. Now they would have to partner with someone in this live stream that they had. They couldn't go into all the details, I think probably because of legal reasons, but they hinted that they were, that they were involved in some big players that were going to allow them to have their product, their software, their app a part of their ecosystem. And I would imagine, because everything's Android based, that it would have been maybe Google, Android phones for sure. Partnering with somebody like that would have been the gateway drug. That would have been the first step in. I'm assuming because Apple was such a big, kind of hurdle to clear, they weren't talking about Apple. So maybe eventually they would have started with Android devices and eventually worked their way into iOS devices. I think that's a solid business model. I think it's a solid idea. It's a good concept. It's a shame that we didn't get to see that sort of flushed out. Would they have? I think they would have definitely penetrated the market a little more. It would have been a much more casual experience for someone who has an Android device, a tablet or a phone, to be able to jump into this ecosystem and partake of it. It would have been very easy to do. The barrier of entry would have been, much more decreased, especially when you consider the fact that these cabinets are $800, $500, $400, depending on if you could catch one on sale. They also mentioned that the sales of the cabinets had nothing to do with the bankruptcy, with the end of the company. Now, let's just take this for face value. I'm not going to assume that they're being dishonest here. Let's take that and run with it for a second. If that was the case, they also hinted at other hardware iterations, other variations of the cabinet. So instead of just getting a standard cabinet with the 6-button layout, we would get multiple cabinets in multiple variations. Does that make sense? That sort of follows the iiRcade 1UP model, and I don't think that they really would have had much success with that. Maybe if it was a direct-to-consumer type thing, which for the majority, the most part of their company selling their products was basically direct-to-consumer. But different form factors, I'm not sure how well that would have gone. I think I'm really more keen on the Android idea of having that on your phones and tablets. You've got people that have those devices already. That would be a great way to get people into it. And a small percentage would definitely buy cabinets, but I feel much better about that. Hardware-wise, I'm not sure what else they could have done, because I think we got to go ahead and talk about the main thing. Well, let's talk about the top 2 reasons why I think the company ultimately failed. Let's start with what I think is the number 2 reason, not the number 1 reason, the number 2 reason that the iiRcade failed. And I think it's going to be licensing. I think at the end of the day, if you don't have the licenses, you just don't have you don't have the name recognition for somebody to take the chance, to somebody to really jump in and say, hey, I want to buy this game. The games were probably the biggest. I guess if we're going to rank these, I know I said this was the number 2, but let's go ahead and move this up to the number 1 slot. That was probably the number 1 reason why I think the iiRcade failed overall. If they would have competed a little bit more in the licensing area, got those big items, those big ticket, those big names, I think they could have, probably lasted a little bit longer. I think when you have people wanting to invest in your product, that's got to be the number 1 thing on their list, or at least it's pretty high up there, is, hey, what games do you have? You have this cool quality product, which I don't think anybody can really knock the quality of the cabinet itself. It's a good quality product, but what games do you have access to? What libraries do you have access to? So I guess if we were going to rank these, there's 2 reasons. This is probably the number 1. This is the one reason that I think everyone can point to and say, well, this is why you failed. You just didn't have licensing. But let's talk about that second reason. I want to talk about this. I want to be candid. I want to be honest with everybody. Let's talk about the product. Let's talk about the community, where the product and everything was now. What this community is now. It is very small. It's very tight-knit. It is a small percentage of the overall gaming community. It doesn't have the market penetration. It doesn't have the mass appeal. iiRcade 1UP probably has the biggest name out there, and they're just still not that big. They're just not Sony. They're just not Microsoft. They're not Nintendo. They're not even on the same level as some of these other lesser-known consoles. They're just not there yet. So the iiRcade was definitely, it was probably number 2, but not as big as iiRcade 1UP. But the point of saying all that is that the community is very small. people that were interested in the product and wanted to know about it. Unfortunately, they didn't see this in Walmart. They had to turn to the internet to find out more about this company, to find out more about this product. And the number two reason I think that the company really failed is some of the fanatical fans of the product. Now, to be honest, to be fair, I've met a lot of people who enjoy the iiRcade. I got the opportunity to meet a lot of them. The Game and Brew event in Chicago was awesome. The people at iiRcade, awesome, great people, nice people. I've never had any issues or problems with anybody associated officially with iiRcade. But about 5% or less, let's call it 5%, about 5% of the fan base, the fans of the iiRcade, were incredibly fanatical and very off-putting to a lot of new people that were trying to get acquainted with the product. It's one thing to support your product. It's another thing to be a sycophant and just, to the point of delusion, to the point of it's so off-putting. You can't have a real conversation about it without a member of this 5% losing their mind and becoming insulting and berating and just annoying and overbearing, and it turns people off. So I think that if this was a bigger product, if we're talking about Sony, Microsoft, or something competing in that space where the install base is much bigger, the community and 5% of that fan base wouldn't be able to make as much impact. But because this is such a small community, I think that 5%, that very loud, very vocal 5%, is a reason why this company failed. And I think that we all have to look at ourselves and take ownership of it. Look at yourself and ask yourself, did I contribute to this? And it's odd to think about it, but in the pursuit of supporting the company, your devotion to the company, you lose yourself so much that you become a detriment, a negative, an overall negative to the company that you're trying to support. And that's a damn shame. So I think that we need to remember moving forward, whether it's whatever company we're trying to support, keep these things in mind, because we want to talk about what we enjoy, we want to talk about what we love, but we don't want to be berating to the people that are just being inquisitive or asking questions or maybe even challenge our point of view. Let's not be so tribal that we can't be open to a different point of view. I think if you continue to be that way, you're going to welcome more people into the community. People are going to be more accepting, and maybe they'll actually take the chance. They'll step out, and make that big purchase. So at the end of the day, it's sad. Like I said, I arrived at this conclusion a couple weeks ago. I was bold enough to say it on my channel. Many people said it before me. I wasn't the first by far. This company with this product is officially dead. And at the end of the day, I think it's a shame because of the quality of the product itself, the cabinet itself. I mean, nothing else out there can really compete with it. But number two is, I think that if we step back and think about it, no matter what company you're a fan of the most, they had, in theory, the best model. They had the best idea. They had the best platform. If iiRcade could have locked up all the major licenses for all the major companies, Capcom and Midway, if they had Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, in a form factor like this, where all you have to do is buy one cabinet and you can download everything to it, that has more appeal than an Arcade 1-Up, formula where you have to buy all these individual cabinets. Arcade 1-Up had the best idea. Unfortunately, the licensing and some of the fanatical fans shot him in the foot, and it's a damn shame. But I think that someone hopefully will take the ball and run with it. The company is for sale. Someone's going to buy all the assets. What will they do with it? Will they chop it up? Will they throw it away? Or will they continue what iiRcade started? One company, one affiliate, one associate of iiRcade that's going to continue to take the ball and run with it is Glenn. GRS products are still going to be available for the first generation cabinet. And, Glenn is out there. He's still excited about extending the life of the product. He wants us to continue moving on. There's still a pretty good, fan base. There's a good library of games that are on this. Well, there's a large library of games. Whether you think they're good or not, well, that's up to you. But he's willing to support the product. So if you're still wanting to support the product and see it maybe expand beyond what the company had envisioned, support Glenn, support GRS, and check out his products. And I will leave a link to the pre-order for his deck in this video description so that you can click on that and support it. You're supporting the thing you bought, the iiRcade, and you're also supporting GRS and their awesome efforts to continue to maybe extend the life of a product that unfortunately has just died. Anyway, thank you so much for checking out the channel. Y'all have a blessed day, and I will see you next time.